Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start this video with the story about the most expensive free parking discount in hotel history. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. She blocked our driveway, then demanded compensation. I'm the general manager of a small boutique property in Brisbane, Australia. Now, being a smaller hotel, we don't have sprawling grounds or massive parking structures. In fact, on sold-out weekends, our already limited parking situation becomes even tighter. It's a logistical dance I've grown used to over the years, and most guests accept it, even if they grumble a little. But there's always that one guest. It was a particularly busy Saturday evening when that guest and her husband pulled up. The lot was already full. They stopped their car right in front of our entrance, completely blocking in the cars already parked, and strolled in to check in. Check-in itself went smoothly enough at first. I ran through my usual spiel, handed over the room keys, and offered my best customer service smile. But just as she turned to leave, she stopped mid-step, pivoted back toward me, and I could see it coming. You know that look. Eyes slightly wider, index finger raised and wiggling at shoulder height as they gear up to make their case. Game on. Guest, you need more parking spots. There's not enough for 40 rooms. Your car park is already full. I reserved a space. Me. I'm sorry, ma'am, but our parking is on a first-come, first-served basis. We don't take reservations for spots. If our lot's full, the good news is all the on-street parking's free and unrestricted. She wasn't having it. Guest, well, there should be 40 parking spaces, one for each room. Now, for context, our property has 12 spaces. The council requires 1 space per 4 rooms, so technically we exceed local regulations. We're actually doing better than most in our category, but logic wasn't about to win this argument. Me. I understand your frustration, Mrs. Nitpicker. Truly I do. In fact, our plans to build a full underground parking garage were sadly delayed because of the COVID-19-induced shovel shortage. Not a shovel to be found within 100 kilometers. We're hoping to have it completed just in time for the Brisbane Olympics in 2032, though. She stared at me, trying to decide if I was joking. I gave her the most sincere, straight-faced smile I could muster. Guest, you should extend your car park until then so every room has a spot. I think we should be given a discount for having no parking. There it was, the discount demand. It's always about the discount. Me. Funny you mention that. The owner did consider knocking this entire place down and turning it into a public car park, but then we realized having no rooms would hurt our hotel rating, so we've decided to hold off on that plan for now. She narrowed her eyes slightly, trying to gauge if I was messing with her, but I kept my tone polite and professional with just a hint of cheek for flavor. Guest, and the discount I asked for? I nodded solemnly and began typing furiously at the keyboard, muttering little and sounds for dramatic effect. I could feel her eyes on me, waiting for her when. Me. Right, I've applied the discount to your folio. I've calculated the total cost for parking on the street for your 7-night stay and deducted that from your bill. Is there anything else I can assist you with, ma'am? She gave a haughty little huff, flashed me a smug smile, and said, Guest, well, I should think so. Then she turned and strutted off, completely satisfied that she'd stood her ground and extracted justice. What she didn't realize, what she never even paused to consider, is that street parking here is free. Always has been, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The total discount I applied? A whopping $0.00. And she didn't notice a thing. I watched her head toward the car, still blocking the entrance, and couldn't help but smile. Sometimes you have to let people feel like they've won, especially when it costs you absolutely nothing. That is so strange that they only allow 1 space per 4 units. Maybe she was from out of the country. Everywhere I've ever traveled was 1 space or more per unit. People are driving to stay there and want their car close enough to load and unload. And our second story. Always double check what you're wearing. I work at a local appliance store where the uniform is a simple blue polo shirt and jeans. Before that, I worked at the local big box store, and just my luck, their uniform looks almost identical. Blue polo, though typically paired with khakis. On Friday, though, they have a casual Friday where jeans are allowed. So picture this. It's a Friday evening, probably around 6 p.m. I just wrapped up my shift at the appliance store and decided to stop by that same big box store for groceries. Still in my work clothes, I figured I'd do a quick loop through the electronics section first just to see what was new before heading to the food aisles. I'm checking out the latest laptops and TVs when an older lady approaches me. She's probably in her 70s, sweet and soft-spoken. She asks if I can answer a few questions about laptops. I smile and say, I actually don't work here, but I'm happy to help you until someone who does comes along. She seems relieved and thanks me. The questions she asks are pretty basic stuff like, is 8 gigabytes of RAM good? And should I spend more on a bigger hard drive? I give her honest answers, trying to explain things clearly. She reminds me so much of my grandmother, and it's no trouble at all. She keeps thanking me, and I keep assuring her it's really fine. I'm happy to help. That's when I feel it. The sound of a foot tapping impatiently and the weight of someone glaring daggers into the back of my head. I turn around and sure enough, there's a middle-aged woman standing there, arms crossed, eyes rolling so hard I'm amazed they stayed in her skull. I ask as politely as I can, "Hi, is everything okay?" And she lets me have it. "How dare you keep me waiting at the register like this? I've been standing there waiting for you to do your job." I blink, caught off guard. "Ma'am, I don't work here. I'm just helping this nice lady until a staff member comes along." She snorts, "Liar! Don't you dare stand there and lie to my face. You're in uniform. I know you work here." She starts calling me every name in the book, loud enough that people in other aisles probably heard. And she's doing this right in front of this sweet older lady who just wanted a bit of help. That's what set me off. I've been in retail for 14 years. I've been yelled at, insulted, blamed for everything under the sun. But don't do it in front of the elderly. That's where I draw the line. I look her in the eye and say, calm but firm, "Please go find someone else to help you. I do not work here." And lower your voice. That was like lighting a fuse. She completely lost it. "How dare you speak to me like that? You're going to regret this. I'm going to have you fired. You'll wish you'd been nicer to me." I couldn't help it. I laughed. "Please go right ahead and try. I'd love to see you try to get me fired from a place I don't even work at." And then she said it. The line that'll stay with me forever. "If only your mother and father had died before you were even conceived, then I wouldn't have to deal with such a miserable piece of crap like you." It was like she'd punched me in the gut. My father died by suicide not long after I was born, and that wound still hurts. I felt the stings of tears, but I took a deep breath, trying to stay composed. I looked at her basket. There, right on top, was a carton of eggs. Without even thinking twice, I reached in, grabbed one, cracked it right over her head, and let it drip down into her hair. She screamed like I'd set her on fire. The older lady behind me, she burst out laughing. Big, hearty, can't catch her breath kind of laughter. I turned to her and said, "I'm so sorry about all this. I hope you find the right laptop." Then I walked away, leaving the woman shrieking about how rude my generation is as she stormed off covered in egg. And the best part? My old manager from that big box store was working the electronics counter that night. He saw the whole thing. Later, he told me that he had to bite his lips so hard to keep from laughing out loud when I cracked that egg. Sometimes karma's as simple as reaching into a stranger's basket and cracking open justice one egg at a time. And our last story. They called 911 over my parking. I've been parking in front of my neighbor's house for a while, mostly because it's the closest legal spot to mine. But these neighbors have decided they own the street. Every trash can, like clockwork, they wheel out to their bins, they wedge them right up against my bumpers, one in front, one behind, boxing my car in like it's garbage itself. I'm left either dragging their bins out of the way or risk flattening them under my tires. It's clearly a move to bully me out of parking there, even though it's a public street. Yesterday took the cake. I moved the trash can so I could leave, ran an errand, and when I got back 2 hours later, there they were again, trash cans repositioned to block me in, as if they'd been watching from behind the curtains waiting for their chance. I decided enough was enough and went over to talk. That turned into a shouting match. They were calling me disrespectful, claiming I'd been blocking their garbage truck from picking up their trash, which, let me be clear, is nonsense. I don't park in front of the bins, and there's plenty of room. But somehow, in their minds, this was justification for their trash can warfare. Not content with just harassing me face-to-face, they called 911. Yep, over a parking spot. The cops came, took one look at the situation, and told me I was well within my rights to park where I was. Still, they suggested I park elsewhere to avoid drama. That felt like letting the bullies win. And the kicker, if they just left a note or knocked on my door, this whole thing could have been solved with one conversation. So I started paying closer attention. It turns out they've had space every time for their trash cans on the other side of their driveway. Since my post, they've been leaving their driveway empty just to guard that sacred stretch of curb, even on trash day. And funny enough, their trash still gets picked up just fine with the bins next to the mailboxes. So much for their excuse. Here's where the universe stepped in. A few weeks after our 911 encounter, karma rolled up in the form of city code enforcement. Turns out someone, not me of course, definitely not me, reported that these neighbors had been leaving their trash cans out way before the allowed time and blocking the public street. The city took it seriously. First came the warnings, then the fines, and the cherry on top? After multiple violations, code enforcement flagged the property for ongoing monitoring, meaning any little slip-up would rack up more penalties. But it didn't stop there. The landlord who owns their rental got wind of the fines stacking up, and wouldn't you know it, between the complaints, the fines, and the growing tension on the block, the landlord decided these tenants weren't worth the headache. Within 2 months, a big, bright for rent sign went up in their yard. Now their trash cans, like their car and their entitled attitude, are someone else's problem. I park wherever I want to now. Funny how a bit of patience and the right kind of persistence can clear the curb and the neighborhood. Bullies rely on people backing down, but when you document, stay calm, and let the system work, they often screw themselves over. Now you park wherever you want, and the street is quieter without their drama. Some neighbors just can't handle sharing public space. But hey, at least the trash took itself out. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.